So good morning to all of you. So last meeting we're discussing about the personhood, the first topic in our syllabus. Now this Saturday we'll continue on the next topic regarding human sexuality. So this is a gradual in our syllabus from personhood to human sexuality to love, friendship, marriage, and the rest to responsible parenthood. So isunod-sunod natin yon. So how are you today? And I don't know kung may natutunan tayo o kayo in our first discussion with the recorded lecture on personhood. Remember the givens of the person, the indicators of the human person to be authentic as well as the unauthentic person. Then I'll also give you a reflection paper. There are 3 guide questions. Sana nakasubmit na lahat. Hindi ko pa natapos na check. But hopefully, nakasubmit na. But there are some of you na nagbigay lang ng 2, 3 sentences sa bawat guide question. And that's 15 points. Okay? So, sige, we move on. So, what about human sexuality? Our objective this morning is at the end of the session, you should be able to accept and appreciate your own sexuality and the sexuality of others so that you'll be able to relate meaningfully with others. So we have only one objective about this topic. So now, we'll be talking about sex. But sex, by the way, this is not kabastusan. This is a gift given by our Creator. Then what about human sexuality? I think you have already an idea. But to move on, human sexuality does not only mean sex. Sex is just one aspect of it. Sexual here means everything that makes us man and a woman. It is a gift from God to help us become a better persons. God chose us to create man and a woman. That's according to the Bible in Genesis chapter 1 verse 27 to 28. And I think in the Holy Quran nandoon din yan. To complement each other, to live together, and form a healthy relationship. So the one and a man and a woman is a complementarity with each other. So dagdag itong isa, dagdag ang isa, then they complement with each other. Okay? So once again, sex is a gift given by God. Okay? And He created man and a woman. Then there are also other definitions. In all species of animals, including human species, sexual behavior is directed by a complex interplay between hormone action in the brain that give rise to a sexual arousal and a physical experience with a sexual reward. In most animals, sexual activity and responses are primarily a matter of biology. So we know what is biology, this part of life, itong sex na ito. Then human sexual behavior is different from the sexual behavior of other animals. And why? We know that though we are animal, but we are a rational animal. God gave us the intellect and the will. Unlike other animals, when we talk about, pero remember the comment of Pacquiao of those nagpakasal na same-sex marriage, lalaki-lalaki, babae-babae. Sabi niya, mas masahol pa sila sa hayop. And which is true. Pacquiao has a point there. And why? God created only man and a woman. Not man for man, woman for woman. I think that's very clear. But at the end of the day, Pacquiao also apologizes to the community of LGBTQI. Okay, or later, ano pang madagdag dyan. Kasi dumadami sila. There's a danger nowadays. Dumadami na hindi naman sila nanganganak. Okay, nasaktan man sila na mas masahol pa sila sa animal, take it or leave it. That's the reality. In Islam talagang very strict. And of course, Christianity is very strict on that. Because kanina, I quoted the verse in chapter 1 in Genesis na man and a woman. Not man for man, woman for woman. I think that's very clear. Kaya nga, we are given the intellect and the will. Pero minsan, tama naman din sa Pacquiao, masahol pa ang tao kaysa sa hayop. Walang disiplina. Buti pa ang hayop. Napansin ninyo? Look at the dog. Kung hit si babae, that's the time na may intercourse. Pero pag wala, buti pa ang dog may disiplina. Ang tao, wala. Kaya nga, nasabi yun ni Pacquiao. Okay? Next. According to the study of Alfred Kensi, he interviewed a lot of the respondents. Then, he concluded in his research na the research findings have concluded that the lower the socioeconomic class, the more permissive to the sexual behavior. I think kayo mga midwives, you can attest to that. If you look at the people in the barrios or your kliyente, di ba? Mas mahirap, mas maraming anak. Hindi ba kayo nagtaka? Kasi permissive, gustong-gusto nila. Okay? Unlike kung professional yan, may plano. Kaya nga, you have the great role and responsibility to the people in the community na sila yung na inaalagaan ninyo so that itong controversial na research na ito hindi magkatotoo. But reality would tell us na ganun talaga yon, even in our country, in the Philippines. Then another study, the research of William Masters as well as Virginia Johnson, this is also controversial. From 1950s then to 1960s, anong nangyari? Their primary contribution has been help define sexually as a healthy human trait and experience of the great pleasure and deep intimacy during sex. Great intimacy during sex. It is socially acceptable goal. They focus on the sexual functioning, sexual problems and therapeutic interventions for these problems and help move society toward the discussions of the sexual practices and experiences. Then their findings of their research was published just prior to the sexual revolution from 1960s when attitudes towards sex become much more permissive. Di ba noon from 50s to 60s, hindi pa man tayo ipinanganak, but if you will ask our ninuno na buhay pa ngayon, talagang sila yung makapagsabi na iba ng babae ngayon at lalaki ngayon, hindi tulad noong unang panahon. In the Philippines, you have still the Maria noon. But nowadays, because of the social media, people or young people are being liberated. Sobra-sobra na. Kaya nga, permissive. That's from 60s until today. Okay? That's according to the research. Then there are make-up of an individual's unique sexual being. There are 5. The first one is physical. We know. Kaanyuan na makikita. Then psychological, kung nag-mature na ba. Then social, the relationship of others. Of course, cultural. Then most of all, the so-called spiritual. So that's the individual's unique sexual being. There are also 5 features of sexuality. The first one is sensuality, intimacy, sexual identity, reproduction, and sexualization. So, we'll discuss this one by one. What about sensuality? Being sensual, being sexual, a pleasure-seeking? Look at this one. Sensuality is an awareness and acceptance of our own body. Awareness and acceptance of our own body. The knowledge of anatomy and physiology, understanding sexual response. Ano itong mga sexual response? Na you know within you, lalaki ako, babae ako. Okay? The body images, that is satisfaction of skin hunger, attraction template, then minsan nagpa-fantasize din yon under this sensuality. Okay? That's the first features. Second, intimacy. Experiencing emotional closeness to one another. Especially may mga boyfriend na, and how much more may mga asawa na. I think karamihan sa inyo may mga asawa na. So, intimacy, the closeness with each other, with your relationship. That includes caring, of course, sharing, risk-taking. Kahit na anong mangyari, basta dalawa tayo yung magsama-sama. Vulnerability, self-disclosure. That's more on the closeness or the intimacy to one another. Third feature is the sexual identity. Sexual identity is a process of discovering who we are in terms of sexuality. That's why there are times may tinatawag tayong identity crisis when you reach the stage of puberty, 13 pataas. Hula, na-attract man ako sa kapwa ko lalaki, na-attract ako sa kapwa ko babae. Maybe because may mga aspects din dyan, like the gender roles. What about these gender roles? Kung anong nakikita in the family, ito si tatay, mas dominant. Si nanay, mas dominant. Then nagsasabi, ay anak, kung babae ka, huwag kang mag-bike kasi ganito. Lalaki ka, huwag kang maglaro ng ganito. Kaya ng manika. Kasi that's only for baka mabayot ka. Pero the gender roles, may tinitingnan yung bata. Then of course, the sexual orientation, self-esteem and self-confidence level, the relationship with family and friends, then roles as a child and adult. Kaya nga, may tinitingala yan, mga bata. If you notice nowadays with this situation now, sabi natin, hindi nanganganak ang mga tumboy, ang mga bakla, pero dumadami. That's a question now. Okay? Biro mo yan kung sila lahat na maiwan. Okay? Then family, in our subject, nasisira, walang family. Anong anak nila? Aso? Pusa? That's a problem. Then the perception of self as male and female. Kaya nga, with that, ano ako, babae kaya ako o lalaki ako? Why na-attract ako sa kapwa ko lalaki? Baka nagka-problema. Kaya nga, tinatawag nating identity crisis. Nagka-crisis ka. Bakit ginusto mong kapwa mo? Pag hindi mo yan ma-overcome, tuloy-tuloy na yan. Sabi nga, pag tumanda ka, doon yan nalabas. Okay? So that's the point there. Then reproduction. The values, the attitudes, and behavior relating to reproduction. And we know this one. Okay? On the issue of contraception and fertility issues. And you know this very well. Our church, and I think even Islam and the other religion, they do not like contraception. Yung mga contraceptives na ginagamit in order to prevent na mabuntis si babae. Then, the lifestyle that includes then, after that, kailangan daw yon para di magka-AIDS yung mga contraception. Then, the anatomy and physiology. Then, of course, moral issues when it comes to reproduction. There are a lot of issues on morality. I'll cite you an example. What about this surrogate motherhood? I think you're familiar with that. Halimbawa, ako, sperm ko, yan. Basic example si Joel sa may-ari ng Aficionado. He has a lot of children. Dalawa, triplets, kambal. I think 6 or 9 na ngayong anak niya. Puro magaganda. Kasi parang nagre-renta siya ng babae na foreigner, of course, with his sperm. But the question, that's the big question on morality. Kaninong anak yon? Sa kanya, yes, sa kanya. Pero hindi man niya asawa yon, ginamit lang. So kaya nga papasok yung morality. Another issue is the in vitro fertilization. Okay, that's another issue, the in vitro fertilization. I think you're familiar also with that. Okay? So that's more on reproduction. Next is feature is sexualization. Use of sexuality to influence, control, or manipulate. Like the style of the dress. Pa-sexy ako, pakita pusod ko, pakita kilikili, pakita cleavage. That's the style. Then the appearance of the body language. Advertising. Kita natin sa TV, talk shows, and media, malaking problema yon. Okay? Then, harassment and sexual assault. Kailan nangyayari ang harassment? And of course, nangyayari yan kung may superior, may inferior, may subject, then hinaharas ito, problema. Okay? Then another paraphilias like voyeurism and exhibitionism. Ito nangyayari ito sa mga kabataan. Ginagamit especially using the technology. Okay? Then what about the values? The qualities of life which are deemed important or unimportant, right or wrong, desirable and undesirable. Alam natin anong tama, anong mali. Then papasok sa moral values kasi ito nga subject natin. Relate to our conduct with treatment and other people more than just right or wrong. Looks at the whole picture. Okay? Tama kaya ito? Magpakasal ang kapwa lalaki. Tama kaya yung nagpari-parian using the Catholic Church and a priest, pari daw sila na kinakasal because they love each other. So that's more on titingnan ng the big picture on that issue, especially to the moral values. Then, what about sexual moral values? Relate to the rightness and the wrongness of sexual conduct and when and how sexuality should be expressed. Yan. How and when sexuality should be expressed. So, nagdidepende talaga yan. Okay? Sana naman, tayong tao, gamit tayo dito. Hindi lang basta-basta. Just to express. Kaya nga, papasok nga yung moral values. Then, there are also sources of sexual values. Then, we acquire sexual values from our social environment. I think that's true. Kaya nga minsan na disorient yung mga tao from the province pagpunta dito. I had a classmate before in the seminary, a Papuan. Sabi niya, you know, Brother Joars, in Papua New Guinea, our women there are naked. They just cover this and this with the bahag. There is no malice. But when I arrived here in the Philippines, very bad. Kita natin, sources of sexual values doon sa social environment. Bakit sa kanila walang malis? Pagdating dito, may malis siya na. Okay, that's a problem. Now, there are difference between men and a woman. This research, I think some of you would agree, and some, if you disagree, wala tayong magawa, but this is part of the research. Man, by and large, does not love in the same way that a woman does and vice versa. Would you agree or disagree? Kaya, ang husband ko, hindi siya showy. Ang husband ko, hindi siya malambing. Kaya nga, iba talaga. Pero pag may makita ka na, ang lambing-lambing, very thoughtful yung kanyang asawa, kanyang boyfriend. Okay? Kasi magkaiba talaga. Okay? The way na paano yan mag-deal ng relationship, especially sa pagmamahal ang lalaki. Then man tends to neglect, women tends to nag. Wow. Disagree or agree? Kaya nga sa aming kalalakihan, we do not like nagger na mga kababaihan. Kaya nga, majority sa inyo may mga asawa man, yung wala pang mga asawa, learn from my mga asawa. Do not nag. Okay? Okay. Next, husband needs his wife's reassurance concerning his work. The wife needs her husband's reassurance concerning being loved. Kita mo yung kaibahan? Work, reassurance of love si babae. Then men tends to be essential minded and women detailed minded. I think you would agree to that. And I also agree with that. Kasi pag magkasama kami ng asawa ko, mamalengke, kita yan, tingnan pa yung expiration date, tingnan pa yung mga sira-sira, mga produkto, katagal. Pero kaming lalaki, kung anong bilhin, automatic yan. Okay, so talagang magkaiba. Then men tends to be more logical, women tends to be intuitive. I think you would agree with that. Intuitive using the instinct kayong kababaihan. Kaya nga minsan, because of this intuition, because of instinct, kung nag-flirt yung asawa ninyo, ramdam ninyo yan. Naramdaman ninyo yan. But since logical si lalaki, anong ginagawa? Magrarason din yan. Wala, maling hinala yon. But there are times na mali naman kayo. Okay? Kaya nga, hindi talaga sure din yung to be intuitive. Okay. Then husband tends to be more passionate. Then woman tends to be more romantic. Tama kaya ito? I think so. Then man's physiological weakness tends to be discouragement, then the woman's loneliness. That of the woman's loneliness. Yes, ang dali ma-discourage mga kalalakihan. Pero si babae, palundi-lundi lang yan para ibigin. Okay? Then when it comes to gifts, take note on this. Gifts have different significance for woman and man. For wives, gifts from their husbands are given to them unasked. For wives, not things they tell them they would like to have, but things they, the husband, would like them to have. Then for the husbands, although they also appreciate gifts from their wives, but gifts do not generally have the light personal context in their own perception. They have considered the gifts precisely as such gift, object, and hence they may be bad receivers of gifts. Moreover, men are often embarrassed to receive gifts. Women generally pleased or flattered. I think ganun siguro kami. Yes, happy naman ma-appreciate namin, pero minsan nakakaya naman. Pero pag si babae bibigyan, wow, napaflattered yan siya. Wow, okay? Then when it comes to roles, and we know this one, the man's role, fatherhood, head of the family, a leader, a provider, promoter, planner, protector, and decision maker. Tama? Then sa woman's role naman, motherhood, heart of the family, then administrator and advisor. Of course, to the husband and to the children, advisor yan siya. Administrator, dapat nasa inyong kababaihan ang ATM ng asawa ninyo. Kayo yung tagahawak ng pera. I don't know with you, yung may mga asawa. Baka hindi kayo makahawak ng pera ng husband ninyo. But pag tatanungin nyo ako, all my ATMs nasa asawa. At minsan magpa-cute-cute na lang ako. Ma, baka makaapak ako ng kamatis, wala akong pera. Namawa man din yan. Because women, that's part of your role as administrator. Then, remember this. Woman was created from the rib of man. She was not made from his head to tap him, nor from his feet to be trampled on. She was made from his side to be equal to him, from under his arm to be protected by him, from near his heart to be loved by him. Okay, tandaan niyo yan. To be equal, kaya nga dito kinuha, then under Then, the heart to be loved by Him, malapit para mahalin. Kaya nga, kayong mga kababayan, dapat hindi sinasaktan. Dapat minamahal. Okay? Then, to continue with the differences. Men tend to be logical, while women easily upset and show it more readily. Ayan. Then, men tend to be emotional. Men tend to be less emotional. Women are more emotional, more sympathetic and caring. I think you would agree with that. Men tend to be loners and often prefer to keep things to themselves. Women want company and like to talk. That's why karamihan sa nag-suicide, mga kalalakihan, hindi babae, because the nature of a woman is marunong silang makihalubilo, marunong silang mag-share, papalabas yung kanilang emosyon. While itong mga kalalakihan, kinikim-kim, tinatago, umiinom, nandoon pa rin yung problema. So, yon. Then, in expressing themselves, men are clearer and direct to the point. Then, women tend to beat around the bush. I think you would agree with that. Okay? Then, men experience a sense of fulfillment not only in marriage but also in his work. Women are more centered in marriage and the family life. Wala naman siguro mag-disagree dyan. Then when it comes to the qualities of spirit, men are less religious than women, have less patience, and though physically strong, their endurance is less. Women are more religious, more patient, and can endure and persevere. May reaction? Wala man tayong lalaki dito. Ako lamang lalaki. According to one of my, yung nauna, may lalaki na estudyante, sabi na, sa amin sir, in Islam, dapat religious talaga si lalaki because it's obligatory yung the 5 times prayer, 5 times a day prayer. Sabi ko, are you sure? Or baka for the sake lang na nag 5 times ka? But are you really religious compared to your wife? Ngumiti lang siya. Okay? Then regarding sexual qualities, men tend to learn love through sex and inclined to the physical aspects of a relationship, while women learn sex through love and are inclined to the psychological aspect of a relationship. So yun, malaking kaibahan yon. Sex, dito love naman si babae. Kaya yung may wala pang mga asawa dito, tingnan niyo yan. Baka si lalaki, Allah, sige, hanggang bumigay ka. But huwag kang bumigay hanggat hindi pa kayo kasal. Kasi sabi nga, women learn sex through love and are inclined to the psychological aspect of a relationship. Kasi iba si lalaki. So yan yung dapat tingnan ninyo, especially yung mga dalaga pa dito. Then take note on this. There's a nota bene here. All people are different and they are influenced by their culture and personality. However, their success of their interactions depends on the proper development of male and female attributes and formation of adequate maleness and femaleness in each of the sexes, because it is on this basis that relationships are established. Therefore, a continual awareness of masculine and feminine differences of thinking, feeling, and acting is required to help couples, if you have already the asawa, the husband and the wife, to understand their own sexuality and of the opposite sex to a reasonable degree of enhancement of the relationship. So within me, kung alam na alam ko na yung pagkatao ko, pagkalalaki ko, ikaw babae, alam niyo yung pagkababae mo, and you complement with each other, so ang ganda. A reasonable degree of enhancement of the relationship. Now, part of human sexuality is the female and the male anatomy. So we are going to fast track this one because nadaanan nating lahat ito, especially kayo, mga medical practitioners. When I took up, I think in biology in college as well as in high school, kaming mga lalaki, pinadrawing kami ng anatomy, the reproductive organs ng mga babae. Ang babae naman, pinadrawing, of course, you have to level that one. Okay, so, alam naman ninyo, i-fast track na lang natin. Yun yung female reproductive organs. Yan. Of course, with the parts and the function. Yan siya, fast track. And just read that one. Yan, the clitoris, the vaginal opening, the hymen, the vagina, usually 3 to 5 inches long, cervix, lower end of the uterus, then the ovaries, diba nakaganyan yan, dalawa. Then sa male naman, anatomy, yan. Of course, with the parts and the functions. Ayan. Penis, scrotum, testes, alam na alam niyo yan. Testosterone, the vas deferens, seminal vesicles, the prostate gland, Cooper's gland, semen. Now, take note on this because you have to submit this one. There are 3 case analysis. So, you are going to analyze the following based on your values or on our Filipino values. The first scenario, Christopher sees nothing wrong with watching pornographic films. So, analyze that scenario. Second, Yusuf and Mariam have been dating for a year. Yusuf sees nothing wrong with sex before marriage, but Mariam thinks otherwise. Because Mariam is afraid that Yusuf might leave her if she refuses her advances, she gives in just the same. So give your analysis on that scenario. Then the last one. Susan made a mistake once because she lost her virginity to a boy who left her soon after having sex with him. Should Susan tell her present boyfriend about her past? So, you have to write your analysis on the 3 scenario on the one whole. Then, you have to submit that one next week before Saturday. Friday until night. Then, Saturday, we'll be discussing another topic. So, that's 15 points. Remember, 15 points. In our previous reflection or assignment na pinagawa ko, diba, I allow you handwritten, just picture it, send to my messenger, or naka-encode to my email, no problem with that. Pero, you already know, diba, yung dati, pag sabi ko nga, in a paragraph, it is composed of 5 or more sentences. So, 15 points yan, expect na there are 3 paragraphs. 5 or more sentences. In the previous assignment, yung iba bigyan lang 1 o 2 or 3 sentence, tapos na. But remember, gamit lang. If you want to have a good result, so therefore, ayusin. Hindi yung just for the sake na makasubmit. Yung grade niyo for the sake lang din. Gusto niyo 75, bahala kayo. But gusto niyo maka 100, maka 90, ayusin ninyo. Okay? Take note on that. So that will be one of your assignment. But in addition to that, in relation to the third scenario, You have to watch the film, a short film, an Islamic or a Muslim short film entitled Chains of Heart, a Muslim short film. So, mayroon akong na-download, send ko sana sa ating group chat pero nagkasabi man, hindi man makapasok kasi yung the megabyte, the MB, medyo mahaba-haba but that's only 19 minutes and 21 seconds. So, just check the YouTube. Okay? The title is Chains of Heart, a Muslim short film. Yun talagang lalabas. Nandoon si Mariam, I think nandoon si Abdul. Okay? So, you have to write, of course, reflection paper on that short film. Kasi very touching yung film. This is related to the third scenario about Susan. Okay? So, with that, God bless you all. And hopefully, may time tayo na mag Google Meet naman tayo. Hopefully next week. But if not, because of this internet connection, talagang malabo. Minsan mawala estudyante, mawala ang teacher kasi sinubukan ko dito sa amin, mawala. Sir, sorry kasi nawala ako. Sinadya bang mawala? Pero I find it easy. Hindi naman easy. Mahirap naman mag-record, lecture, record. Kasi nandyan na, makita ninyo, mapag-aralan ninyo uli, parang ano pa rin, normal class pa rin ang dating. Okay? Pero iba talaga yung normal kasi makadaldal man kayo. Ito, one-man play. Ako lamang nagdaldal. But what is nice here, good here na walang rason na, Sir, wala akong assignment kasi hindi ko, nag-absent ako. Kahit saang lupalop ka pa sa Pilipinas o sa mundo, tingnan mo lang ito, at least may masubmit ka. So, walang rason. Okay? Then sabi ng namang iba, Sir, ang attendance pala, sir, wala namang problema sa attendance kasi sabi nga, online nga ito. Kami lang nag-attendance, pero kayo, Saturday, then pwede naman kayo mahabol kasi recorded lecture nga ito. Okay, sana nagkaintindihan tayo dyan. Then, see you next Saturday. God bless you all. Dalaygon ang Diyos. Bye-bye.